I like what you were saying about perfection. And I guess for me, I'm thinking about massage therapists wanting to perfect what they do.
Real craft.
Their craft, and it, you don't have to say art or anything, but your craft. To me, it was almost something that was passed down from my mentor. In a way, I asked. It's like joining a masonry or something. I joined, and she showed me something that not many people did. Not many guys did at the time. 15 years ago or whatever. And it was something I wanted to perfect. I wanted to be good at it, not only for people to say, "Oh, I'm so relaxed" or whatever, but what my mentor, she wanted me to be able to fix people and be recession proof, which is something that always stuck in my head. Be recession proof. This is going to be your business. This is not just a side thing that you're going to do for a little while. Do you want to do massage or do you want to do massage? And, so I've just been perfecting it. And sometimes I think now people get out of school and we go right into it 9 to 5 if we can. Every day we do massage, and I think we lose the passion for it sometimes. That's why we get burnt out in 2 years. It's not if you have a passion for playing, Warcraft or something like that, you play for hours and hours and hours, and you don't necessarily get burned out until maybe years from now, and that's how, I think massage should be.
Yeah.
So, perfecting your craft and being confident in what you do, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that you can continue to practice on throughout your whole massage career. That's what confidence is. What's the word? Contagious sometimes. People can feel your confidence, and sometimes they feel comfortable within that confidence sometimes. So it's okay, it's okay to hold yourself up and practice all the time. It's the way. I think you really hit on the perfection.
Yeah.
And we don't, here in the West, we don't do it as,
it's not, it's, the thing is, I notice it in Asia specifically. It's not that it doesn't exist in the West, but there's something about, I think, the culture as a whole. In the West, we value what's youthful, what's young, what's new. What's the new thing? Mm-hmm. Whereas in Asia, it was like, what's the tradition? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, the Asian master is always like somebody who's done it and they're old now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. You venerate almost your elders in a very different way than we do in the West. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Experience counts. Like I was saying at the beginning, experience counts. Sometimes, a person that's been doing massage for 2 years, they're not going to have the type of experience that somebody's that's been doing it for, years and years and years. So there is something to tradition, but there's evolution too. There's evolution as well too.
Yeah. And I don't think they're mutually exclusive in any way, but what I so often see, like if I would use food as an example, is I don't see as much on the whole. I don't see small artisanal craft shops trying to push the edges of what food is in America. There's a market for it.
You don't see that?
I don't see it. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
Right.
I'm saying that on the whole, it's like there's another fast food chain. And there's nothing, I don't have any issue with fast food. I eat fast food. But at the same time, what I really like is seeing something different, something new, something evolves. And a lot of the conversations I've had with traditional bodywork practitioners is always, about food, because it's food and music are two big ones. I think growing up in South Louisiana, food and music were two big parts of the culture. But I come from a place where the culture is so American. It's like it sprang out of, it's like, is gumbo African, Caribbean, European, French, Spanish? And it's like, it's this American creation that hadn't existed. Because a roux is French. But when you add, you add okra to it and, whatever, which is an African, a Swahili word for okra. Anyway, it's this cultural amalgamation. And the thing is, I would watch a video on a wine producer, and it was Somm into the wine. So this is a sommelier. That's about the sommeliers getting their, their status as sommeliers. Right. This is about the history of wine itself related to it. And there was a California winemaker, and at one point he said, listen, I don't give a shit how the French and the Italians make wine. I'm making California wine. Right. Like, I'm trying to forge a new path off of what is vintage, out of what's like thousands of years of like winemaking tradition. And that's what I find interesting. It's okay in a way to change it in music, and it's okay to change it in food, but to change it in bodywork, they're like, oh no, tradition. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, no, I guess it's hard for me to see that view because I don't view that way.
Yeah.
Again, I think tradition is good, but, pushing the envelope, I think is good as well. We didn't make it into space without pushing the envelope. Some people say we still haven't made it into space, but, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, you have to push the envelope. In tradition, it's kind of connected to me to the, repeating the past. If you don't remember the past, you're doomed to repeat it. So I think tradition is great. So we don't want to go into forget the tradition, and all of a sudden, I guess we are in some places, refounding what it is that we've, what it is, like for us in the West, doing mat therapy is new. But in the East, it's ancient. This is what we've always done, but because it's coming over here, it's going to have a little twist on it.
Yeah.
And so does that, is that bad for the traditional or no? You can always, you at least remember the past, but you don't have to be stuck in it.
And there are debates about, what that means. And I went into some detail. I think it was in the Phase 2 workbook, but I know that I've written it down somewhere where I went on this little excerpt about, the French and about French cuisine and like why are the French so revered with food. When I would watch Iron Chef, the original Iron Chef, it was the American broadcast where they would dub it into English. Hiroyuki Sakai blew my mind. I just was like, what? I didn't know. I had never thought about, okay, yeah, a Japanese guy learns French techniques, does it with Japanese ingredients, and created a fusion cuisine. I was like, oh my God, like what, I'd never seen anything like it. And what I started to look at was, why are the French so revered? And the foundation that I came to was, it's not because the French are just the most amazing people on earth. It's really a combination of the fact that they have coastline for seafood. They have dairy, cattle, butter, cheese. They have a perfect climate with all these various ingredients, and then time for that to evolve. And what the French essentially did is they systematically refined food chemistry. So French food, even though there are some cliche sort of dishes within French food, what the French really did was they systematically refined food chemistry, and like a Maillard reaction, French guy, is a browning reaction that happens like when you make French onion soup. When you brown, you caramelize sugars that are occurring naturally in those onions. When you understand that chemistry, that's why Sakai can apply it to Japanese ingredients in a completely different way. So the thing is, the foundation, and people can argue with me. Please don't send me hate mail if you're French, by the way. But the thing is, it's like what made French food was what was available. You know, duck confit and like having to preserve it through the winter, you know, things like that. And once you got to the point of you systematically refined the food chemistry, it became science.
That's what I was waiting to, and that's what we revere here in you know, is science.
Yeah.
And usually once you find an equation that works and that's simple, you don't want to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that science becomes a tradition because you just repeat it and you just repeat it because it's worked and worked and worked, you know. But even in science, things change, you know. But it takes a long time for things to change, you know. And the only way to talk about science, where I tell people I think we're 100 years behind because Einstein was developing, all this stuff in 1914.
Well, we're behind because of the Dark Ages, where we stopped asking those questions that were started by the Greeks and the Arabs, and it's like we slowed down the process, or it did happen in the Dark Ages. The whole thing is like the science itself. I think of science more as being like a framework for exploration to ask better questions and keep going.
That's what I was going to. You hit two words: science and exploration. I think that's what the French did. They explored and explored and explored and were able to make a science out of it.
But then the thing is, it's like, well, this is traditional. And then in France right now, and again, it's harder for me to speak because I don't live in France, but when you have people from other countries moving in who are having an influence on the food, and like, no, they're like, this is traditional French food.
Right. Well, because maybe you have a palate for that. But just because you've made a fusion doesn't mean that it doesn't have some French reflections.
Sure. And the thing is, for whatever reason, in food and in music, it's a little bit easier to do that. When Dylan went electric, everybody lost their mind. Right? It's like, no, this is folk music. It's not electric, right?
Right.
But Dylan was like, I'm an artist. I'm evolving. Go away. I don't,
And so what you're saying is that doesn't happen in massage?
Well, the thing is, I think that massage is a less refined art. I think it doesn't have the history and lineage and tradition that's been as systematically refined as it has for maybe food or music. I don't think it's as old necessarily, or it doesn't have like an unbroken lineage. It feels like you can alter food.
Would probably tell you differently.
Probably.
And that's
but when you go visit
yes, but and that's the thing, maybe they have refined it, and they have refined something, and that's how they were able to make a whole philosophy and a science out of it. That's why Thai massage is just the small piece of it. There's other parts, and there is a science that supposedly has worked for, thousands of years, and we still have Westerners today going back. And moving from our Western science,
mainly what they're picking up is the manual therapy component of traditional Thai medicine. And the critique that I will use, I've never been to Thailand, but the critique that I'll use is right now there's medical tourism in Thailand. They have some of the best hospitals and facilities, and it's much cheaper than it is here in the States. So people will go to Thailand to get things like sex change operations. The reason there's traditional Thai massage, not Thai massage, traditional Thai massage, is because traditional Thai massage is a fundamentalist backlash against Western medicine that basically was supplanting their indigenous practices. And then Westerners like us have picked up elements of traditional Thai medicine, mainly the manual therapy part, and we're sort of like altering it, changing it, preserving it in our own way. That's what my critique is. It's like the reason you can go to Thailand now and get antibiotics is because it works. And antibiotics became more common than traditional Thai medicine and the use of herbs. I'm not saying that they don't have any benefit. I'm saying that they have to be studied, researched, and refined. Yeah.
You said a lot right there. I had to think about that.
Well, no, it's like it's a backlash because it's like saying, I read something recently where I think George Washington died, if I remember correctly, from bloodletting. He got a very bad some sort of infection or something. He was out in the rain and it was cold, and they did some bloodletting, and he lost too much blood. They think that's why he died, like he did. And the thing is, now we would look at that in abject horror. Right. They're like, there's no scientific reason to do that. But at the time, they were working with the best that they had. Mm-hmm. And that's where traditional Thai medicine was as well. The reason those practices developed was because people didn't have Western medicine. Once they got Western medicine, it continued to refine, grow, and it almost supplanted their traditional art, almost destroying it in a way. Yeah.
I think I can agree with you on a little bit of that. I don't know a lot about the history and everything, but I do think that the Western medicine has, affected a lot of the world, and but again, you see now that all of us, and here in the United States, are popping pills, aspirin, and things like that, and it seems that some of these things aren't working for us any longer. It looked like it worked, and we started giving pills out for everything. Yeah. I don't know if it's because there wasn't enough research or big companies wanted money or anything like that, but people are still now going back to the basics. And when you don't have tradition, you can't ever go back to the basics. Yeah. And I think that's why people hold on to tradition, because it's a repository of knowledge, and that knowledge isn't to be forgotten, because you may move away from something, and you may dive into it very well, and you may have some secrets, and you may gather some secrets, but it may turn into a dead end. It happens in science all the time that there's secrets gleaned in quantum physics, and maybe they think string theory is going to be the theory, and this is it, and then they're like, oh wait, we have to have
science is
different things
is the ongoing quest to be a little bit less wrong.
Right. And and again, but how can we know we're less wrong if we don't have tradition? And that's the only reason why I talk about tradition that way, but because tradition is important. It is important, a tradition in a way, you honor your father. You honor your father in some ways that you do unintentionally, just because, I'm the son, you're the son, things like that. It's a tradition. But you're also Robert, though, aren't you? Yeah. And you can do whatever you want. And that's the beauty of it. I can take things from wherever it is across the world, and I can apply my experience to it and mesh it together and create something else.
Excuse me.
Bless you. Create something totally different and make it work. That's what I think the goal is.
And the thing is, it's not for me. It's never been anything about squashing tradition. It's that I think the science is a good way to refine information and figure out what works, and to be able to isolate variables, to be able to find out more about our world. The reason we use it is because it works. Mm-hmm. It's not canceling out, native arts. It's not canceling out, traditional medical practices at all. Right. And if anything, it's like willow bark, created aspirin.
Right.
It's like we just isolated it to a specific, compound.
It's like,